first I'll start out with the fact that we've only announced about half of what's in these games. And the reason why we haven't announced everything is that the concepts are so different that it's going to take a while for everybody. We've been working on this for 2 years. It's not fair for us to just dump it on you and expect you to understand everything all at once. So what we're doing is we're introducing you to a bunch of different concepts so that people can start wrapping their brains around it and seeing where it can go, and then we'll unveil all the other things as they go. So there's a lot more feature announcements for us to do. In previous games, we've had expansion packs, and expansions are basically content releases that come out in a big glop, and then and people go in and they play it, and then they have to wait another year for a new expansion. In our game, we have rallying calls, and those are constantly evolving, and as players complete them, we always have new ones in store, and we're always showing new stories and new places to go and new ways to adventure so that the world is constantly changing. So you're never waiting for an expansion pack or something like that. There's always something new for you to do.
What we're asking people right now is to imagine the possibilities of what you can do with this stuff. And the fact that this is, I believe this is the first game that has ever shipped with this technology in it, that has ever been designed with SO Emote in mind. Certainly the first one we've ever done. It makes a lot of sense for us to, partner with someone and sell webcams that are specifically optimized for it.
Well, I mean, we kind of did already with EverQuest 2.
Yeah.
So we had a deal with Logitech, and it worked out really well because they have some great cameras. But yeah, of course, we can do all kinds of different deals and stuff like that. The game is really, really open. There's going to be a lot of hooks for people to get into if they want to get involved. EverQuest 1, EverQuest 2, and this new game are all different worlds. But they're kind of parallel realities. They're all like based on the same backgrounds and the same kinds of monsters and same kind of feel, but they have different histories. So like, for instance, in EverQuest 1 and EverQuest 2, different gods have died at different times. It's not the same world. EverQuest Next is almost a complete reboot of the lore. So we're tearing it down and we're leaving familiar places and familiar characters in the game, but telling all new stories and stuff like that. Now, that being said, they are completely different realities from each other, but all three of them touch in one place, which is Aetherneer, which is the afterlife of the game. So when the characters in the worlds die, they all go to the same place. And that allows us to do a few little crossover things once in a while. And in fact, we're doing some of that in EverQuest and EverQuest 2 right now.
Yeah, keep an eye out for that. I think the easiest way to think about this is in terms of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, where he took all of the characters that we know and love, the stories and the premises that we know, and just tweaked them a little, changed them enough that it was a completely new and rich experience. And because of that, you had the nostalgia, but you also had a complete new story and adventure.
Yeah, and in fact, we're already telling the story of the game way before the game has been released. We've been contracting with writers, really, really good fantasy writers, who have been creating what we call prequel stories. So there's all these stories that are rolling out that tell the life and times of the different races and stuff like that, and what has happened to them over time, so that players can be reading this stuff and understanding how our world is different in lore from the other two EverQuests. And so all of these stories and stuff are starting to roll out, and the players are eating them up like the best cheese in the world. And they can't get enough of them. And as we continuously roll these out and musical tracks and everything to support them, we're creating new character for the world and letting people believe in it. And then when the game actually launches, they'll be completely ready to role play.
Yeah, and I think you can't have a fantasy IP, you can't have a fantasy world that isn't born out of conflict. Like, it's the perfect kind of story for conflict. And so, the backstory all the way up to the present is filled with all of these political intrigues and wars and things like that. I think what's really different about EverQuest Next is that we're going to let people be involved in an ongoing conflict, in ongoing stories that are as epic as the backstory. And it'll be, I think, the first time that you've seen that in an MMO.
One of the reasons why we're doing all this fiction back work and everything like that, and establishing real easy stories to understand, but that are poignant and emotional, is that we want anybody to be able to participate. But if you are an EverQuest 1 or EverQuest 2 player, you're going to recognize the things, and they'll have emotional touchstones because, well, you used to adventure in that place. How is it different in this new world? And so you'll want to experience the differences. But for people that are coming to it brand new, it's just these wildly cool original new stories, and you're experiencing them like Well, you would any other story. It's easy to get into. It's not a problem.
Yeah, and I think from a design standpoint also, I mean, one of the advantages we have as one of the original MMO companies is we have the most experience in the world at making these kinds of games. So since 1999, since 2004, we've learned a lot about how to make the games more accessible and easier for people to play, that sort of thing. So I think if you've played EverQuest or EverQuest 2, you're going to have a lot of fun when you jump in. But if you haven't, if you're not familiar at all, it's not going to be a problem.